You will remember on page 140 of Hine and Shattuck, as they talk about the events prior to the ordination of the Philadelphia 11, that the House of Bishops had approved in their meeting in November of 1972, had approved and really endorsed the ordination of women, that is, the House of Bishops, and that as the General Convention met in 1973, the majority of the House of Bishops were prepared to vote for the ordination of women, and that indeed the majority of the House of Deputies, both lay and clerical, supported the ordination of women. But on 140 it says this: however, the proposed legislation on women's ordination failed to pass the House of Deputies, not the House of Bishops. It passed in the House of Bishops. Although the majority of lay and clerical deputies at the 1973 General Convention voted in favor of women's ordination, the vote failed to carry because of a parliamentary technicality. This is a time when you really need to pay attention to the footnote that Hine and Shattuck provide on page 156. It's footnote 26. So I would ask you to look at that very carefully so that you understand the technicality by which the vote for the ordination of women failed. In our day, where there's all sorts of technicalities that are used in the House of Representatives to delay or defeat legislation, it should come as no surprise to you. So attend to that footnote, footnote 26, very carefully. That'll help explain the situation. And it provides a rationale, I think, for why the three bishops felt that they had a warrant to act in their ordination of the Philadelphia 11. In referring to that ordination in 1974, I think, and to discussions about whether the ordination was invalid or whether it was irregular, I think it's important to be reminded, and this is brought out in the pages of Carter Haywood's memoir, A Priest Forever, that this service of ordination that the three bishops planned was entirely public. 2,000 people attended it. It was announced in advance. It was not done in secret or on the sly. Everybody knew that this was going to take place. The bishops, as you will recall, who participated, were not diocesan bishops. They were retired bishops, so they were acting independently. But as bishops, they had not been impeded. There were no presentments made against them. The candidates, the 11 women who presented themselves for ordination, had all been ordained to the diaconate. They had all received the appropriate educational training according to the Constitution and canons of the Episcopal Church. They had all been examined before they had been ordained to the diaconate. The Church had already acted that women ordained to the diaconate were fully equal to men who had been ordained to the diaconate. Men ordained to the diaconate were, some of whom were ordained to the transitional diaconate, so it was understood that the diaconate had this transitional quality to it that could be followed by priestly ordination. As these women prepared to be ordained as priests, they were examined according to the Constitution and canons of the Episcopal Church as priests by these bishops, bishops who had not had presentments made against them, who had not been impeded in their action. It was determined that these women had fulfilled all of the canonical requirements to be ordained as priests. And during the service of ordination, as you will read in Carter Hayward's memoir, they subscribed to the oath of obedience and conformity in the Book of Common Prayer. They did not see themselves as renegades. They subscribed not only to accept Scripture as authoritative, but to uphold the doctrine and discipline of the Episcopal Church, and to be obedient to their bishop. And when you read Carter Hayward's letters back and forth to Paul Moore, her bishop in New York, you can see just how obedient she attempts to be in all of her actions. However, in August of 1974, in light of these ordinations, the House of Bishops met and declared these ordinations to be invalid. They did so because they said that the bishops had acted in ways that defied the collegiality of the House of Bishops, and that they had acted beyond the boundaries of their authority, both because they were retired and because they were not acting by invitation of diocesan bishops to act on their behalf in the ordination of these women who were canonically resident in dioceses. So again, it's also about collegiality. And so on the basis of that, they declared these ordinations invalid. But as you will see in, again, the documents that Hayward includes in her memoir, but also in the discussion that you find in the textbook, declaring these ordinations invalid is a slippery slope, because it calls into question episcopal orders and the whole idea of apostolic succession. There's a very important doctrine that you need to know about that is appropriate with respect to this discussion, and that's the doctrine of ex opere operato, 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 and that is that regardless of the, one could say, the status of the person receiving the sacraments, or the status of the person performing the sacraments, if the sacraments are performed with intentionality by people who are authorized to perform those roles, either as a priest or as a bishop. And a bishop is authorized to perform ordinations of priests. If they are performed with the appropriate intentionality, the sacrament is valid. To call the ordination of the Philadelphia 11 as invalid is slippery theological territory, and one suspects that the bishops in the House of Bishops knew that. And again, that's documented in the pages from Hayward's memoir that I have photocopied for you, and I hope you'll pay attention to. The ordinations, to be sure, were irregular, but to say that they were invalid is probably not the case. But it introduces an interesting question into Anglican identity, and we can talk about this week, and I want to interchange with you as you engage in your discussion. It brings into question, the kind of three-legged stool, or the three strands of authority in the Episcopal Church, Scripture, tradition, and reason. With this ordination, you have a fourth strand introduced, and that is obedience to the leading of the Spirit. A fourth strand of authority being experience guided by the Spirit. So maybe we have now to talk about a four-legged stool or a cord of four strands of authority that has to be taken into account. But of course, once you introduce the strand of experience and the strand of following the Spirit's guidance, you also have to wrestle with that slippery slope of certitude about which I have spoken repeatedly in this course. Look forward to talking with you more about this over the course of the week.